And the sartorial chef, we are exploring the regional delicacy known as Goetta. Kicking things off is a savory bread pudding with Goetta and pumpernickel. Next, it's my fried Goetta balls with a spicy mustard dipping sauce. And last but not least, Goetta Rangoons. Why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me? Back to the sartorial kitchen, everybody. And today is Goetta. Now, for those of you that are not from around here, you're probably thinking, what is Goetta? Well, Goetta is essentially a pork product. It's usually found with the breakfast meats. And what it is the remnants of pork, you know, what's left over. And it's mixed with steel-cut oats. And it's formed in either like a little log or kind of brick. And it's usually served around breakfast time. You fry it up. It's a nice breakfast side. You can find it on sandwiches and omelets, but over the last 20 years or so it has really taken off into its own thing, and really become popular. There's festivals for it now, and there's all kinds of different dishes, which is what we're going to be exploring today. So we're kicking things off with a, making a savory bread pudding of sorts. And I just got half a yellow onion in my skillet. I'm chopping up some celery here. Just some nice little slivers. I don't want them too big. And you're probably thinking a savory bread pudding. Well, I wanted to do something different. This is almost like a breakfast casserole, but it's going to have a lot of different flavors in there. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so that is my celery. I'm going to cook down my celery and my onions until they get nice and soft and tender. I've just got 2 tablespoons of olive oil in here. I also want some salt here. About a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper. We want some good flavors in here. Get our flavor profile going. Goetta, it's very regional, only to the greater Cincinnati area. So if you're not from around here, you've probably never heard of it. Now if you're from the South, you have something similar, scrapple. It's basically the same idea, except they use like cornmeal. This is steel-cut oats. And yeah, Cincinnati, you're probably thinking, why Cincinnati? Well, we used to be the pork capital of the country for the longest time. So there were all kinds of pork processing plants, and nobody wanted, you know, the scrap pieces. What do we do with it? Goetta, da-da-da. And it took off like hotcakes. Like I said before, there's festivals for it now. So many great things. Now to this, I need some garlic. Once your vegetables have kind of cooked down some, you can add your garlic. I'm going to do about a tablespoon of garlic. You always want to add your garlic last so it doesn't burn. Okay, so there's that. While that continues to cook down, I'm going to prep my bread. I've got about half a loaf of pumpernickel here. I thought the pumpernickel would be fun for this. And it's an older bread, so it's dried a little bit, so it's perfect for any kind of like custard, because it's really going to soak up that custard and it's going to get nice and crisp. And I'm just going to kind of run my knife along the side here. I think we can do 3 rows. And then we'll come back this way and dice it. I want some pretty decent sized pieces. These are this is thin bread, so only the piece is kind of big, so it really soaks up that custard. And I've got a little throwaway pan here. I like to use those, easy cleanup. We're just going to drop our bread in first. And just kind of spread that out. We want each bite to have a nice piece of the bread in it. That looks pretty good. I'm using the brick for this. It doesn't really matter, the brick or the roll, because it all kind of cooks the same. The thing with the rolls, you can cut it into patties, so it's good for like breakfast. This I went ahead and got because we're just gonna mash it up in the skillet here, fry it up. So this is easier. I feel like I can just kind of break it up. And I'm just going to kind of break this into sections. And it's almost going to kind of cook like a hash, so I kind of want to break it up into pieces. And this is one of those dishes you can make ahead, stick it in the fridge, pull it out when you're ready to make it. So it's a great like plan ahead meal. I'm going to leave just a teensy bit of that. We have some other dishes later and I want to conserve my Goetta. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to rinse our hands off. Always rinse off your hands when you're working with raw pork. And Goetta is essentially raw pork. Okay, I'm going to let this cook down here. We're just going to come in here with our spoon and mash it up. And I want it to kind of come in so you can see here like the texture of it. You have the oats and different things in here. And this pan is good and hot, so it's not going to take that Goetta too long to cook through, but I want it to get nice and crispy. It's really good when it's crispy. Even if you're like doing it for breakfast, it's good to like get that texture on it. That's when it's best. Okay, while that Goetta cooks down, we're going to move on to our custard. Now I've made a bread pudding before, but it was a sweet bread pudding. This one's going to be different. It's going to have some savory flavors in it. So I'm starting with 4 eggs. And I always like to start with the eggs so I can watch for eggshells. Crack it right into the bowl. If you've got any shells, get them out now. Nobody wants shells in their bread pudding. Okay, to that, I have some heavy cream here. I'm adding 2 cups. That's going to really stretch it out. And the egg and the heavy cream together, it's just going to get nice and light and fluffy. Okay, I've got some other things here, some Dijon mustard. This is kind of like a German style Bavarian mustard. And I'm going to add about a couple tablespoons of that. I want it to have some good flavor. We're also going to season the custard here. I've got some salt. A couple teaspoons of salt, teaspoon of pepper, and I've also got a little nutmeg here. I love nutmeg in custards. We're going to do about a half a teaspoon of the nutmeg, and I want this to have a little heat. So I've got some cayenne here. We're going to do about a quarter teaspoon of the cayenne, just give it a little heat. And then I'm going to give that a good whisk. Incorporate those eggs and everything. I wish you guys could smell what's going on here. It smells amazing. Okay, our Goetta is just about done, I'd say. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that down. That can go off. We'll set it aside. I want to let it cool before I mix it in with my custard, otherwise it's going to scramble our eggs, and that is not what we're looking for here. Now I've also got a pack of Munster cheese, because who doesn't like cheese in their eggs, right? Okay, so I'm going to do part of this pack, the other pack the rest of the pack I'm saving for another dish. just gonna break this guy open. And I like Munster. It's a nice kind of German cheese. And Goetta has some German descent to it. There was a huge influx of German immigrants to this area during the 1800s. And I'm just going to go ahead and chop all this up. Now some of it we're using for a later dish, but I am going to take about, I don't know, about half, and it's going to go in our bread pudding. So I'll go ahead and leave that out, and then this here, I'll just go ahead and chop up for later. I'm going to take the Goetta mixture first, and pour that into our pan here. And I just want to spread that out. So there's Goetta and onion and celery and garlic in every bite. We're just going to kind of spread that out over top. Next I'm going to dart in my cheese. Just kind of, you know, spread it out. The Munster's good. It's has a little bite to it, almost like a Swiss. And it has that same kind of like creaminess to it, so it's going to go amazing in this. And lastly, our custard. I'm just going to pour that right over top. Nice and slow, because I don't want it to spill. Okay, now we just want to come in here with our spoon. Make sure that the bread gets into that custard nicely. And the other thing, like I said about doing this as a make-ahead dish, because it gives the bread more time to soak into that custard. But you can kind of just come in manually and press that bread into the custard. Make sure that cheese is good and spread out. And I would say this baby is ready for the oven. Okay, I've already preheated my oven to 400 degrees. This is going to go in for about 35 to 40 minutes. And I will catch you guys in a minute to work on our next dish. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Our bread pudding is in the oven, doing nicely. And we're going to move on to our Goetta ball. So I'm going to take the rest of that Goetta brick. And then I also have a log of Goetta here. This is the hot Goetta. They have mild variety. They have a medium and a hot, just like sausage. I'm just going to come in here and slice this open. And I only need about half of this log. And I'm just going to dump that right in. Now Goetta balls are probably like the most popular item at the fair. Many people carry them. There's different varieties of them. This one I thought it would be fun to mix the mild and the hot, bring a little heat. I'll throw in some salt here. About a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of pepper. I've also got 1 egg. That's just going to go right in. And some breadcrumbs here. Got a couple tablespoons of breadcrumbs. And then we're just going to come in here with clean hands and give it a good mix. Make sure we break up that egg, get all this, get the breadcrumbs incorporated, our seasoning. Okay, that looks pretty good. Rinse our hands off and get ready to fire those babies up. Okay, I think our mixture is ready. I just have one more thing. But first, we're going to take my scoop and scoop these babies out. I love using an ice cream scoop because then you know your balls are all going to be the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop these out first. I've just got a sheet pan here. Now I've got the rest of that Munster cheese from earlier, and I thought it would be really fun to stuff these with the cheese. How about that? So I'm just going to put the cheese in the middle there and just kind of roll this over. We want to encase the cheese so it doesn't ooze out when we go to fry these. And just kind of plop it down in the middle and then form the ball right around it. Okay, I think our mixture is ready. I just have one more thing. But first, we're going to take my scoop and scoop these babies out. I love using an ice cream scoop because then you know your balls are all going to be the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop these out first. I've just got a sheet pan here. Okay, these babies are ready to go in. I'm just going to drop them in gently. Very carefully plop these in because you don't want to get splashed by oil, but you can hear that sizzle. It means our oil is ready. And just a couple more here. Alright. Okay, while our Goetta balls begin to cook, I'm going to work on our dipping sauce here. I've got some more of that German mustard. About a tablespoon of the German mustard. And I've just got some plain yellow mustard here. I'm also going to do about a tablespoon of that. And depending on how hot you like it or not, a little sriracha here. I'm just going to do about a 1/4 teaspoon. And a lightweight when it comes to heat. And just stir that up. And I love the sriracha, gives it a nice rich color. You can see that right there. It's going to be the perfect complement for our guys. Okay guys, these are ready to flip. I'm just going to go ahead and turn them over, and you can see they're getting a beautiful crust here. Okay, I've let these babies cook a couple minutes on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and get them out now. I use a slotted spoon here to kind of avoid getting too much grease. And these look amazing. You can see they have a nice, beautiful brown crust on them, which is exactly what we're looking for. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for now. And I like using the paper towel to get all the grease. Nobody wants greasy balls. Alright guys, I've just let these cool a little bit. I'm going to grab one here, get a little bit of my spicy mayo on it, and we're just going to come in for the kill. Ooh, so good. And you can just see the cheese oozing out of us. You immediately get a nice crunch from the Goetta. Then you've got that spicy mustard. Plays nicely with the heat from the hot Goetta. So good, and that cheese just really adds a nice richness to everything. The Goetta balls at the fair, they do not have cheese. This has cheese, so it's better. Okay, next we're going to pull our bread pudding out of the oven. So stay tuned. Okay, our bread pudding is ready to come out. And look at that, it is puffed up beautifully. You can smell that mustard, the Dijon cheese, the bread. So good. Let's go in and cut us a little piece. Alright, I'm just going to take my fork and cut right into this. Get a nice big portion of this. Look at this. You can see all the different layers to this. The bread, has really soaked up the custard nicely. It's nice and tender. And why I like the pumpernickel, because it's has some nice earthiness to it, so it plays nicely with all the other flavors we've got going on in this. What's nice is you can smell the mustard, but it just kind of lingers on the back of the palate. It goes great with the Munster cheese. So good. The garlic, the onion, and the celery give it a nice texture, as well as the Goetta. So good. So, last but not least, we are going to take Goetta to the Far East. So stay tuned. Alright, welcome back everybody. On to our last dish. I said we were taking Goetta to the Far East, and we are. It is going to be Goetta Rangoon. So I've got the rest of my spicy Goetta loaf here. I just kind of sauteed it on a low heat just to make sure it was cooked through, because we want to make sure it's nice. When you're cooking pork, you want it to be nice and cooked through before you eat it. And then I've got half a block of cream cheese here. That's going to go in. And I just need a little bit of scallions. That's going to give it some nice heat, a nice zing. Scallions, you just cut the white end off, the hairy bits. Nobody wants that. And then just come in here and give it a rough dice. You can use, I like to save, the tops are nice for like a garnish, and the innards are what I like to have for the filling. So I'm going to dice about half of that. That's going to go right in. Alright, I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper. I want this to have good flavor. And we're just going to come in with our fork and mash it up. The cream cheese I left sit out for about an hour or so to let it come to room temperature, so it would be easy to work with. And the Goetta I kind of just let cool down some. So I want everything to kind of be the same, everything to kind of be room temp, so it mixes well together. And that looks pretty good. You want a nice amount of everything in the same bite. And I would say that looks pretty good. I've already got my oil preheating. We're going to grab our wonton skins and get started. I've got a little assembly line set up here. I'm going to first take my scoop again, and I'm only going to scoop about a half scoop, because I want to make sure I'm able to close my wonton. So I'm just going to do about half there. Let's get out a couple more skins here. Okay, now I've got a little bowl of water here. I'm just going to take my finger, dip it in the water, and run it along the edge of the wonton wrapper. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the wonton to stick to itself. We're just going to come up on one end and pinch, and then come up on the other end and pinch. And it comes together like a nice little package. And let's go ahead and get the rest of these guys here. Okay, I've got about 8 made up for now. That's about what's going to fit in our pot here. I'm just going to drop them right in. You want to drop them in gently so they don't fall apart on you. And that skin is already starting to crisp up beautifully. I love the sound of the fryer. I'm going to go ahead and lay some more out. That's Got a little bit of filling left. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start scooping these out. Look at that golden brown, delicious. These babies are just going to come right out and cool. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, round two. Okay, our second batch is ready for the fryer. We're just going to plop those right in again. Listen to that sizzle. That is exactly what you want. Nice hot oil. Not too hot, you don't want them to burn, but you also don't want them to steam or poach. So you want that oil good and hot. This made about 18 servings. In case you were wondering. And they cook really quick, like about 2 minutes tops. About a minute and a half on each side. I have got just a little sweet chili oil here for dipping. I'm going to pour just a little out for me, that's all we need. Turn these babies over. You want to make sure they cook evenly on all sides. Just want to get in there and give it a little flip. And these are looking amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I cannot wait to sink my teeth into these. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and let those finish cooking out. They're just about done. I'm going to cut up the rest of my scallions here. And this is another one of those kind of make-ahead dishes. If you wanted to, you could prep those, put them in the fridge, take them out when you're ready to cook. That's just fine. And then the rest of the scallions I'm going to use for a little garnish. Okay, I think these babies are finito. I'm going to turn my oil off. Let's make some room here on our drying towel. And I'm just going to take them right out. Drain all that grease. These, what's interesting about these, because you're probably thinking, you know, a German type food mashed with Chinese. I had these the first year I went to the Goetta Fest. And it was my favorite thing. Oh, it was so different. I'd never had anything like it. And the booth that offered these has never returned. The restaurant's still around. They just have not decided to participate in the Goetta Fest ever since. And I said, you know what? I'll just recreate them myself. So here we go. Okay, oil is off. We're going to remove that from the heat. A little scallion for garnish. And there you have it. Goetta Rangoon. Of course, I'm not going to eat all these myself, but I am going to take one to taste. And look at that nice golden brown color. And I've got my sweet chili sauce here for a little dip. And just dig in. Okay, immediately you hear the crunch of the wonton wrapper. So good. Love that texture. The inside is nice and soft and pillowy. The Goetta and the cream cheese surprisingly work well together. You get a little kick from the scallions. Beautifully seasoned. So good. A perfect little fun appetizer. Game day, party days. I mean, that's just a fun little thing. So good. So, once again, I thank you for joining me in the kitchen, exploring Goetta. As always, like and subscribe at the bottom. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and until next time, bon appetit.